Get notifications and stay updated every time I post a challenge podcast by hitting the subscribe button. Thank you all and hope you enjoy. What's going on, guys? Back here on my podcast. This is episode number 41. Got my guest joining me today. He's from Road Rules, Viewers Revenge, and the Challenge, Derek McCray. What's going on, man?
What's up, brother? How are you?
Good, just hanging in there, East Coast, Jersey's kind of gotten it bad with COVID, so making the best of it.
I feel that that's why we're doing this while I'm driving, is because I'm running around down here trying to get our bar open back up due to the COVID stuff too. So, in case anybody's wondering that, it's not safe to be on your phone and drive, but we got to get this knocked out, man.
Yeah, of course. It's the golden age of podcasting, so,
Absolutely.
By any means necessary. But can you talk to me a little bit about, your casting story coming on to the, Road Rules?
Yeah. So when I transferred to Florida State University when I was 20. I had qualified for the Olympic trials and throwing a javelin. So I wanted to transfer from cold Pennsylvania and Ohio, and I moved down to Florida. And then I submitted a tape when I was 21 years old. I wasn't really expecting it to go anywhere, but my roommate at the time was like, "Dude, why don't you try out for that? You got a good personality for it." And I was like, "All right." And then I got a phone call 2 years later, to the month. For whatever reason, I remember that it was October. I was 23, and I got a phone call from them saying they had just got my tape because they got about 1 million tapes a year, and it takes a while to go through the process. It's not like now where it's streamlined, on the internet and stuff. It was, you actually had to send in a small VHS tape showing my age. That was 16 years ago. But I got a phone call, and I went through the whole the interview process. You got to make 8 to 10 different cuts. They fly you out to LA, and that was it, man. The rest was history.
Yeah, I actually read somewhere that, either you were, pitched for Real World Hollywood or almost ended up on that. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, that's what. So they originally asked me. They said, you're a good fit for the shows. They said, but because of the availability and they already had kind of it set, they were like, we're gonna put you on next year. We'll put you on Real World Hollywood. But then they asked me if I still wanted to be an alternate to Road Rules, because Road Rules is what I really wanted to do. I want to do the athletic, outgoing stuff. I didn't really want to be sitting in a house the whole time. So I said, yeah, still make me an alternate to Road Rules. And then Abram got in a fight with Adam, and then they gave me a call and said, do you want to do Road Rules or do you want to wait till next year and do Real World? So we ended up I ended up going with Road Rules.
Yeah, but how was your experience there on Road Rules? Because I had Tori Hall on here previously, and we talked touch base a little about that. Because your season of Road Rules kind of consensus-wise isn't really looked upon as one of the greater seasons of Road Rules, but she went into detail about how you guys got to do cool stuff go to the Charger game and meet Stone Cold Steve Austin. So
it was cool. They actually ended up cutting our season short by 4 weeks. I don't know whether there was some conflicts or budgeting or something like that. So I was really bummed out because, I didn't come on until week 4 or 5, like I said, until after that fight happened. Tori and I have always been super close too, man. She's a great girl. But and we got along well on Road Rules as well. She's one of the few people I still keep in decent contact with. But yeah, man, we got to do some cool shit, where you get to perform some of the best, well-trained athletes in the world, in the gymnastics world and stuff like that. That was awesome. Plus, you're rolling into Vegas in the Road Rules RV, which is pretty fucking awesome. You know what I mean? It was awesome. Stone Cold was cool. We got to go to his red carpet premiere of the movie The Condemned, and it was cool, man. I definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah, making that transition onto the challenge though. What was your kind of thoughts?
So the weirdest thing about going on the challenge is is you're going to see people that you've seen on television for the last 10 to 15 years, and you're the new guy. They don't know who you are. I mean, maybe somebody watched Road Rules and they're like, hey, I know, I saw you on there, but most of them don't. Like, I'm not going to lie, even when I was doing the shows, I didn't watch the other ones, you know what I mean? Like, so I didn't, when I would go do a couple more shows and I would meet somebody new, I had no idea who they were. So the weirdest part is, like, you're meeting people that have been doing these shows for 10, 15 years, and you're like, well, shit, I'm on a show with CT now, or Brad, or whoever it might have been. So, there's like an intimidation factor to it, but I always approached it with just go there and enjoy the vacation and have a good time. So it was cool, man. But they're pretty cutthroat. That was the one thing that Road Rules kind of prepared us for, which Real World wouldn't have, is you're going to be going on there and like straight up battling some of these guys, and most of them are pretty good, solid athletes.
Yeah, talking about athletes. Obviously, you had your background, being a spear chucker, as you and I talked about on a Friday.
Right.
Yeah, you had your background, but it seemed as though, although you were a rookie, you kind of approached the game with like sort of an alpha male status, and your team even treated you as such. They've even referred to you on multiple occasions as the strongest player on the rookie team. You were even chosen to go up against CT in that like mud thing.
Yeah.
How do you feel like that kind of stigma of being like the alpha male on your team kind of was it something that you kind of like talked yourself up as, or do you think you just like earned the respect of your peers?
I think it was more that I earned the respect. I'm not one of those guys to go out there and talk about it quite like that. But it was also like the format of the show with rookies versus veterans. If you're a rookie, that means you've only done one or two shows to begin with. And so I think it's kind of like you're looking around like who else would be the leader of the team. And so, yeah, I mean, when I went on there, it was apparent from the beginning that like I was going to be the leader of the rookies and see if we could come out with a win. Because dude, that veterans team on the Gauntlet 3 was so stacked. It had from Evan to Kenny to CT, Brad. I mean, they were just like straight up alpha male status, and we're just not. You know what I mean? So we went in there and they ended up winning obviously in the end because Big Easy, who I love to death, man, not ripping on the guy, but he wasn't doing that 4 or 5 mile run, bro. I'm sorry. I knew he wasn't doing that from the beginning. So at that time, now he is. Now he's in much better shape. But back then, the veteran guys knew it too. But he was also one of those guys. He's big and he could take you out, so nobody wanted to face him.
Right. Yeah. We just talked about how stacked that veteran team was, and you mentioned all those names, but ironically enough, one name that we didn't mention, and he actually, correct me if I'm wrong, was actually the first male to go out on their team that season, and was kind of referred to as the weaker of the people, was Johnny Bananas. And fast forward now,
yeah,
and you look at him, and he's got the most, he's won 7 times since, and he's basically like the face of the franchise. He's got his own show. So seeing as how your first season you kind of saw him go out early, what do you think about how, he's evolved?
It's crazy. I've actually mentioned that to a couple. So Johnny and I always got along. He's a Penn State grad, and I'm a diehard Penn State fan. So him and I got along really well. We were on there. We would shoot the bull about Penn State football and stuff all the time. Even after the shows, if we were doing like club appearances or something around back at Penn State, we would use the same guys, the same hosts, the same contacts and stuff like that. So I always really liked Johnny. But you're right. He was just kind of a middle of the road guy when we were doing that, and then he learned how to play the game, though, man. He learned just like the stigma of how to become popular in reality television. Some people have that it factor, and some people don't. And I think after that, he realized like this is how you play the game. This is how you make a name for yourself. You backstab people, and in the end, it doesn't matter, bro. Like anybody that saw that one episode and didn't think that he wasn't going to take all that money for himself, they're crazy. You know what I mean? It's like you have to be like best friends with somebody to split like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Anybody out there could say that, oh, I would never split, or I would split it, but they're full of shit, man. Like almost everybody If you had to make that same decision, you'd keep every dollar.
Right. Yeah, you probably shouldn't have just told me about Penn State though, because I'm actually a Michigan fan, so might have butt heads a little bit on that one.
Well, it's not like we have to worry about it this year anyway. Big Ten's canceled.
Yeah, don't remind me, man. I heard something about them putting NFL games on Saturday now, like a triple header.
I mean, why not? People want football. I mean, we gotta do something. It's sad. It's sad for those guys that are like seniors at those schools or juniors, and they're trying to make it to the NFL because they either have to transfer or they have to use their what they did in 2019.
Right. But yeah, I want to transition a little bit to one of the bigger moments. It was episode 1 of Duel 2. And you were kind of in the forefront of this little, I would say altercation, but that would be to put it lightly, between CT and Adam. And I think when you think about the fight and sound bites, nothing really, rings home more than you saying, you got to get Adam out of here. He's going to hurt him, man. Like, that's one of the sound bites, like, mainly used, during that fight. So now I want to ask you, being in the middle of, like, what went down, could you maybe talk to me about, maybe, your thoughts on the fight, having been there, and, like, how it kind of, escalated?
Hey, give me 1 second. I got to enter this gate. I'm not going anywhere. I just got to check my message. Give me 1 second, brother.
Gotcha.
All right, sorry about that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, me and the key got to get me into my storage area, and hopefully he's here. But yeah, man, that situation was crazy. The people that do the challenge now, man, they need to be thankful that they get to deal with the CT of now, the father, and a much better guy than he was then. I mean, like, again, CT and I got along just fine, but man, he was nuts, bro. Like, he was a whole nother animal. He's one of those guys you could break his arm and he'd still keep coming after you. You know what I mean? He had that I'm nuts and I'm gonna destroy you. 90s Mike Tyson attitude, bro. He was nuts. But he's a fierce competitor though, man. So him and Adam got into it. The craziest part about that whole thing was it was Halloween night too. So we're all dressed up. Like, I'm dressed up like a farmer with like a fake mullet on and stuff like that. Everybody's dressed up as something at some point, and like one of the biggest fights in challenge history breaks out, and dude, he cracks him right in the head. I mean, it was just like, it was literally intense. We thought he was going to kill him. He took his head at one point and ran it across like a rock wall, and the producers were getting involved. They're getting shoved to the ground, like people that aren't like, I mean, straight up like these. It'd be like shoving your boss. You know what I mean? Like stuff you just don't do. But like I said, when CT gets like that, man, you just stay out of his way because he's an animal.
Do you think they could have done a better job of de-escalating the situation, or
no? No, you have to let reality television be reality, like, at some point, especially with the challenge and stuff. I mean, there's a bunch of guys that are all fired up. You're fighting for hundreds of thousands of dollars, so you've already got that mentality anyway. And then you add some alcohol, and dude, there's not much more. They don't want to step in unless they have to. But by the time they got there, he was already at the point of like no return. I mean, maybe they could have stepped in a little bit quicker, but that's their call. Like, they don't want. When you watch these from the side, you'll notice you almost never see production step in. You know what I mean? Or that footage almost never gets used because they're not a part of the show in the viewer's mind. So, I mean, they did what they would usually do and wait till it gets to a certain point, and then you step in.
But yeah, now I kind of want to ask you about, the elimination with Evan and what kind of went wrong, with you and climbing the wall.
Yeah, the one thing they don't show is, so we did I had the elimination with Big Easy, and it on television, it looks like there was a 2-week gap with that. Now, the elimination with Big Easy was we had to climb like that pole that was a rock wall, and they can keep pulling you down and pulling you down and pulling you down. And so my arm, I mean, that went on for about 30 to 35 minutes with Eric and I, Big Easy. And finally, like, I got to the top, but my arms were absolutely spent. Like, I had nothing left. And then the elimination with Evan in real time was like 3 to 4 days later. It wasn't like a big turnaround, and I was nowhere near recovered like the way that I should be. And plus, just the way that I'm built, man. I'm like 6 foot 240. I'm not built for like climbing. I'm just not. I'm a good sprinter and I can throw and I can wrestle, but I'm just not the best like climber, like rock climbing and using like small like handholds and stuff like that. Got ginormous hands and like you could barely get like a fingertip in those gaps. So that on top of the fact that like I was just absolutely, my arms were nowhere near recovered. I wasn't making it to the top. I knew when I picked rock wall or whatever the hell that thing was, puzzle wall, whatever it was, I knew I probably wouldn't make it. It was a rough way. It was a rough way to go out though, because I didn't know that just because of like the changes that my life would take and stuff like that, I didn't know that was going to be my last moment on reality TV. So, you know, to go out like that kind of sucks. Do I have any regrets? No. Like, I'm good. But, you know, for that to be your last moment, like I went out there and dominated on road rules, and then I was the leader of my team on the Gauntlet 3, and they sort of go out like as a loser on the Duel 2. It sucked, but it's all right. It was all right though, man. I was okay with it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I want to ask you though. Like, how come we didn't? This is kind of what I ask usually most of my guests is why, why haven't we seen you again? And like, did you have an opportunity to come back? Like, were you called again?
Yeah, they reached out to me a few times for a few more shows. It kind of got to the point where I did like 3 shows over 4 years, and I enjoyed it. But I was also starting to move on. I'm still in the same industry. I run in bars and nightclubs and stuff. But the problem with that industry is, if you go film a show for 2 months, when you come back, your position's probably not going to be there. Like you have to be available and work these, 50, 55-hour work weeks. And so we would discuss that, and, they would say, well, because you get what's called an interest and availability phone call to begin with, and then they kind of start putting everybody together. And the last couple of times I was like, listen, I'm interested and available, but I would need like a pretty specific time frame so that I can talk to my boss and stuff, because believe it or not, when you're on reality television, not all of us can, survive off that. You still have to have real jobs, and you still have like, you're working out in the real world and stuff. We can't all make $1 million on these shows, and most of us don't. Most of us go back to live like completely normal lives. Like 95% of us go back to work in normal lives. So even while we're filming, even while we're doing the shows, I was still running bars and nightclubs and stuff like that. So yeah, man, it just kind of got to that. Like work kind of became a little bit more important to me than going and filming the show. Like I had already done a few reality television shows. It was cool. But once I got to be like 28, 29 years old, it was more about like I needed that steady income than taking a chance to go film a show, not winning, and then that job's gone and I'm starting all over again.
Right. Did you who did you maybe get along with best on the Duel 2? And maybe if anybody, did you like maybe get rubbed the wrong way?
The Duel 2 was cutthroat, man, just because of how this show is set up. Like I said, on the Gauntlet, you had rookies versus veterans, so you had a team behind you. The Duel format was every person for themselves. So you literally, like, it's tough to, like, really make alliances on there, especially if you're still kind of new. That was only my 3rd show overall, my 2nd challenge. And so I always got along really well with Brad and Tori. I really got along with everybody. Big Easy's fun. I was the guy on the Duel 2 because I was, like, kind of prepared. Dude, those houses get really, really fucking boring. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes footage of us, like, making paper footballs, and we made, like a golf course around the house. Or, just, like, it snowed while we were there in New Zealand. So, making, like, a snowman holding a beer can and stuff. Because there's a lot of downtime, and specifically in New Zealand, they wouldn't let us go out. So you'd start getting bored, you'd start going stir crazy, you get sick of eating the same food and walking the same hallway every day. So you do what you can for fun, man. And so we all got along pretty well. Mark Long is he's like underrated. I always want to have a good time kind of guy too. He's like high energy, one of the nicest dudes you'll ever meet. So I got along great with him. I really got along with everybody, man. Like, that's always been my personality. It's why, like, I went on the show. I'm a really easygoing, chill dude. But likes to have fun, man. And so I brought that mentality on there. I didn't really beef with anybody too much on that. I didn't get any fights. I literally was just there to have a good time.
That's all you can do. But I like that you bring up the whole stir crazy thing with the house and being bored, because not sure, if you knew about, what goes on, more recently, but this past season that just wrapped up a few weeks ago, the entirety of the season they were filming it in Czech Republic. It was in a bunker.
No, see, I'm gonna be real honest with you, and no offense to MTV or anything, I don't watch any of it anymore.
Yeah,
I couldn't tell you half the people on there.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny's still doing it, Anise is still there.
I see some of the highlights, and I see like people post some stuff. My old roommate used to still love the challenge even after I did it, so I'd watch some of that with him. You really do, man. It doesn't matter what the format is. You're still being told like where you can go, what you can do every day. And when you do that for a couple months, man, you start losing it a little bit. And they can basically dangle that paycheck over your head, where it's like, well, you're going to listen to us, you're going to comply with what we're telling you to do, or we can take your paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, another thing I want to bring up as well, since you brought up Mark Long, was he started this thing called.
Hey, 1 second, brother.
All right, gotcha.
Yes. Well, you never call me. All right. Thank you. Hey, partner, I'm gonna have to wrap this up. I'm sorry. If we want, we can call again. If we can do it again.
All right, no problem.
I got my key guy out here, but yeah, we can put, if you want, we could put 2 videos together on there. We can do another one when I get done with him.
All right, no problem.
All right, brother, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
See ya. I've gotten through the bulk of my day.
All right. So, just to, kind of follow up on what we were just talking about, since you spoke about Mark Long, I don't know if you've seen anything on social media lately or heard, but he's, created quite a bit of waves about this new old school 2-week OG kind of like fun challenge when he's been reaching out to a bunch of people from, Road Rules, real world type ways.
Right.
If you were reached out to by him to maybe do a 2-week kind of fun throwback type thing, would you consider it?
So with me, we just have so much going on, and just to be completely transparent, of course I'd be very interested in it, be flattered if he asked. But we are just so busy with the whole COVID thing. Like, I have to be around. Like, I'm the general manager of Hammerhead Beach Bar in Florida, and we're just getting the green light to hopefully open things back up. We've only been able to work for 3 weeks since March, and it's been rough. It would all really depend on the time frame, just because I have to be so available at work right now. I would never go do a show to sacrifice my job in any way, shape, or form. So it's what it would really come down to. Like, if the timing worked out where I wouldn't have to like worry about work or anything, then yeah, I'd totally be down. It's just if that were to happen in the near future, there's just no way I could do it. In the good spirit of things, it would be awesome. I would absolutely go do another show. It's just a matter if I could like physically make that happen, because this whole COVID thing, man, it's been rough on the industry, especially Florida's service industry got really hard hit. So my dedication's to getting open again. And then after that, we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. But kind of shifting gears a little bit to more prominent day challenge. So I don't know how aware you are of the website Reddit, but that's where most of or at least a lot of where the challenge fan base does like their debating and like talking and things of that nature. And
Right.
Lately your name's kind of come up a lot on Reddit when they're talking about fantasy matchups and whatnot. More specifically, they do new eliminations now. One of which, more specifically, that they were talking about, if you were in, it's called Hall Brawl. They have two
Okay.
guys. they have two guys. I can even send you it to get a visual of it once we're off here, just so you know what I'm talking about after the case. But
Right.
it's when two guys, they have like a narrow hallway, right? And two guys on opposite ends of the hallway, and you have to run through each other and get to the opposite end.
They did that back in the day too, right? Where it's like that you have to like ring a bell or something on the opposite where the other guy is starting, but you have to go through a narrow hallway.
Yeah, it's basically like almost.
Man, my ass is 37 years old now, bro. Like, like that just sounds so painful. Like 23 to 28-year-old me would be like, hell yeah, let's like bust some chops. Now I'm just like, bro, let's just like rock paper scissors this thing out and determine a fucking winner.
Yeah, I was basically gonna ask those, considering most or the two eliminations that you did were more so obviously like puzzle related and climbing.
They were terrible.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, do you feel how you felt maybe you would do in a situation when it was like a headbanger, like
I would still obviously go out there and kill myself before I would lose on purpose or anything like that. But let's just say, as you get older, man, the mornings hurt a lot more. I've got a 5-year-old daughter now, so like she takes up a lot of my time. I had to quit playing my last round of golf because my back hurt. You know what I mean? Like things just change as you get older, man. But I would still go out there and I would still compete pretty hard with these guys. But man, it's to get ready for a challenge, like a real challenge, to go out there and do that. You're talking like you really gotta like dedicate a few months to get in shape for that stuff, because what they don't really show you, and it's really hard to like see watching it, is just how grueling some of these things are, these challenges that they do. Like, you got to be in really good shape to go on those shows. And, they condense everything down into a 30-minute or hour show or whatever. So they don't show just how long sometimes you're standing in the same position for 6 or 7 hours, or like you're holding your breath. And they're intense, man. I'm not going to lie.
Definitely. But, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Glad we were, finally able to knock this out. And, hope good fun going down memory lane a little bit. And I'll, send you the link when this is up and ready to go.
Awesome. Sounds good, man. I appreciate you having me. If you ever want to do something down the road, I'm always down.
All right, man. Take it easy.
All right. You too, brother. Take care.
Yeah.